watching now? Whoever.
Whoever.
Okay, so I haven't been here at the beginning.
No, we're starting from the middle.
Okay.
We're learning the Maimer Ldodi Vdodi Li, Tafshin Lamed Beis. So Mukaddik Maimer is printed in Sefer Mamar in the Look at Gimel. So very Elul Dik Maimer, and we only have about a week and a half left of Elul, so we're going to start from the middle of the Maimer so that we could finish it today in Mitzvah Hashem.
You have 8 days.
8 days, so we're going to start from the middle so we could finish it today so that we could use the Aveda of this Maimer for whatever time we have left in Chedesh Elul.
Right.
So earlier in the Maimer, there were quotes from the Tzemach Tzedek, 2 reasons why we blow shofar during the month of Elul. The first reason why we blow shofar during the month of Elul is because in Rosh Hashanah is the time of Yirei Law, as we'll discuss in a moment, and in order to reach the Madrega of Yirei Law, you first have to do Yirei Tata.
Right.
So that's why we blow the shofar in Elul, which is Yirei Tata, so that we will be prepared to blow the shofar in Elul, which is Yirei Law. The second reason that he gives is that in order on Rosh Hashanah we have to be mamshich the makif. We have to draw down the iris that come from makif, from Seviv Kalalim, which is higher than this world, into Mamalis. So in order to draw down these higher iris that come from makif, we first have to have the Aveda of Bittul. Like it says in the Pasuk, El Oniu Necheruach, that the Eivishter rests amongst those who hold themselves humble. Spirit. Yes. And in order to bring ourselves to a condition and a state of bittul, so we blow the shofar during the month of Elul. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek says in his Maimer.
But I would have a question on that.
Yep.
Why dafka a shofar as opposed maybe you should learn more? You understand my question?
Yep, but I can't answer that. That's basically why dafka shofar hasn't it the inyan that it brings to bittul as opposed to learning or as opposed to other mitzvahs? I don't know.
Is it a fairly good question? It's a valid question.
It's a valid question, and it's probably described in different places. But
I got the. I stumped the rabbi.
Stumped the rabbi.
Go
yes. Ahead. Okay. So
maybe you'll find out.
If the more Sfarim we learn, the more we'll know.
Very good. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Rebbe explains the idea of Yirei Tata and Yirei Law. In very short, we'll say that Yirei Tata, fear of the Eivishter, that's considered the lower level. No, that's Yirei Chet. It is included in Yirei Tata, but it's the very lowest level of Yirei Tata.
Okay.
Within Yirei Tata, there could be a higher level of Yirei Tata, which is the person fears the Eivishter, because the Eivishter is the Eivishter, and he fears him.
He's not getting fear that he feels.
Not because he's afraid of being punished. No, he fears the Eivishter properly.
Overwhelming.
The awesomeness of the Eivishter, the greatness of the Eivishter.
Okay, I hear that.
However, this feeling of fear that he develops in his heart comes from his own understanding of the greatness of the Eivishter.
Okay.
And since it comes from his understanding
from world.
In other words, from concepts that are part of this world that can be perceived through a worldly mind and things that we see in this world.
Okay.
And therefore, it can only reach the level of Yirei Tata.
Fine.
Because we, so to speak, we put the Eivishter in the box of our mind. If we put the Eivishter in the box of our mind, of what our seichel can understand,
yes.
So how high can the Yireh reach already? It will be a fear.
It's limited.
It's limited to what we are.
Right.
And therefore, since it's limited to what we are, so it will never be a complete fear. Because we always have some value in this picture. We always have some existence in this picture.
That's something else.
Something else is even lower than that. So it will always be limited. The level of fear, the amount of fear, will always be limited to our existence. And since it's limited to our existence, so it can't negate our existence completely. If the fear is born from our understanding,
yes,
so it cannot completely remove our existence, because its whole quality is determined by our understanding and by our existence. So it brings only
because we're limited?
Only because we're limited.
Okay.
But that's a big only.
I hear you.
In other words, how great can an Eivishter be who's limited to our understanding? Not very great.
No, not
it could be great. It could be great, but not
yeah, but that's Masad. But we're talking about us.
Correct.
Not not a God.
Of course. Yes.
Okay.
And that's why he's limited.
Okay.
Mashiach in the Yira Ilah, the higher level of Yira, we're just doing the introduction, and we're almost done with it. Mashiach in the Yira Ilah, the higher level of Yira, that is born from an awakening Milamayla. The Eivishter causes the Yid. It's a matana, yes. The Eivishter grants it to a Yid. This year, since it's not limited to the perception of the person,
Yes.
so it's of a much higher quality. And such a year, which is not limited to our existence, can actually cause a bittul b'metzias. It can take away our feeling of existence. The feeling of I exist, it can completely remove.
My level, it's very hard to understand that.
Which part of it?
That you want yourself tired. That's a very hard thing to understand.
It's described that only the greatest tzaddikim can truly reach this bittul
That
of
is
bittul
correct.
b'metzias.
Yes.
So it's makes perfect
It's not
sense that
is it beyond our reach?
it's beyond our reach to do on our own aveda b'pashtus.
Okay, it has to be done from above.
It has to come from above, but even then, only in special times. It's not the aveda of regular people. It's not even the aveda of great tzaddikim. It's the aveda of the greatest tzaddikim. It's not.
What do you call it? Bnei Aliyah.
Now, Leah may be. I can't tell exactly. I'm not a member of the club, but.
Oh, I'm surprised. They let you in?
But
you know I joke, Oscar.
Yeah,
You got it right.
But-
Go ahead.
But the nekuda is that, so it's not surprising that it's hard for us to comprehend such a thing, right? Because it's
Not
beyond
at all.
us. It's beyond
Not
us.
at all.
However, on special times like Rosh Hashanah, when the
Yes,
Eibishter
okay.
causes a great
How do you
revelation,
call it? Nisi, call them.
Hanitzitz Karet Lamoyer.
Yes.
I don't know if it says it about Rosh Hashanah, but I'll call upon him. It's a time when there's a great revelation from above.
Okay.
And mitzad, the great revelation from above, a yid in his heart can feel this year. And especially,
the problem is, you don't mind if I interject, right?
Go ahead.
I mean, the problem becomes is sometimes you just don't feel it at all. You go to a show, you daven, you go through the motions, so to say. You hear the shofar, you daven, eat a meal, you go in the mikvah, you say some tillim, but do you really feel it? You understand what I'm saying to you?
Absolutely understand. I've experienced it. Of course, I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, how would you break out of that?
That we'll have to leave for a topic for a different time. But
Okay.
Bechlolus,
Yes.
Bechlolus, for example, in Tanya, he describes a lot that when the yid gives tzedakah, when the yid
Right.
gives tzedakah and he gives beyond his
Means.
ability, beyond his means and beyond his nature, what he
Right.
wants to
Right.
give.
Right. Right. He goes to
So
much
then
higher madrega.
So then the Eibishter grants him also experiences that are beyond where he's holding. That's one thing.
Sukkah elevates. Is it that? I feel the puzzle.
I can't bring that one up, but there's many. We had it recently in Tanya, many other psukim.
Well, here last few days.
Last
already.
few days and last few weeks in general, that was the topic.
Okay. Right.
But also, the answer for pastors for us is what we could do is learn Chassidus. You learn Chassidus, and you learn more and more and more.
Apply it.
Start with the learning.
That would help, right?
It would help.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. You can't
Okay.
fix the car till you have the handbook. You know.
Correct.
There you go.
But this is learning Chassidus is more
I
than a
hear you.
handbook.
I
It
hear you
works
loud
on
and
us.
clear.
Okay. Now, especially when we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, it causes a tremendous awakening of Yireh by a Yid, and this brings him to the level of Yireh Ilah. Okay, that's what we explained in the Maimer until now. But then Deba asks a question.
Yes.
L'chora, if we experience a much higher level of Yireh at the time of Rosh Hashanah,
Yes.
so wouldn't that Yireh Ilah bring us to a bittul, to the Eibishter, which is much greater than the bittul of Tkiyas Shofar by Chodesh Elul? We said earlier that the second reason why we blow shofar in the month of Elul,
Ella was mayor. You give him this rachamim.
but as we'll see soon in the Maimer in the inside, it's like the king is in the field. So even though the Gimel Mitzrachim are mayor, but they don't shine in their full glory. They don't shine in a way where they overwhelm the Yid and
Given a certain
bring
way,
them
Ella's
to a
even
higher
higher,
state.
right?
That we'll see in the Maimer. That's the topic of this Maimer.
Yeah.
That's the topic of this Maimer. So, if during the time of Rosh Hashanah, and especially during the time of Tkiyas Shofar, a Yid reaches the level of Yireh Ilah,
Yes.
so l'chora that should bring him to the greatest level of bittul. So what do we need the Tkiyas of the month of Elul to bring us to a bittul? The Tkiyas of the month of Elul only bring us to the level of Yireh Tata. If
Yes.
we want to reach a higher level of bittul, so that we could be mamshich the makif like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So for what do we need the Tkiyas of Chodesh Elul? L'chora the Tkiyas of Rosh Hashanah themselves should be sufficient.
Very good question.
Okay, that's where more or less he left off, at least for purposes of continuing in the Maimer. And now we will start from Eis Vav. So Vihine says the Rebbe, although in the levels of Yireh, Hayira de Elul Hilamata Hayira de Rosh Hashanah. The year of the month of Elul is Yira Tata, like we just mentioned.
Yes.
And this is lower than the level of Rosh Hashanah. Hayira de Elul Hayira Tata, because the year of the month of Elul is Yira Tata. Hayira de Rosh Hashanah Hayira Ilah. Nevertheless, Mikoma Kemish Maila Bahayira de Elul Al Hayira de Rosh
There we
Hashanah.
go.
There's a Maila, like you just mentioned, in the
Right.
year of Elul compared to the year of Rosh Hashanah. And we just have to point out one thing, that in the Dargas of Yira, in the Madrega of Yira, that's going to remain. The Madrega of Yira is higher at the time of Rosh Hashanah and during Tekiyah Shofar. So the level of Yira remains higher. However, there is a Maila in the Yira of the month of Elul. And let's see what that Maila is. And he's going to go through 3 points over here. The first thing is, the year and the bittul which is experienced during Rosh Hashanah. Since that is the time when the Eibster reveals his glory, he reveals his kingdom, and we feel it, we perceive it. So that a Yid stands in a state of Yir and Bittul at the time of Rosh Hashanah is not a novelty. It's fully expected.
It's like a given.
It's a given. It's an expect. We expect that this should happen,
Okay.
and we're not surprised and we're not excited when it happens.
Right.
Because this is what ought to happen.
Right.
The Kivin Shekula Kamei Kalachashiv, since everything next to the Eibishter is compared as nothing. The Kolshu Kamei Yeser Hu Yeser Kala, and the more we're closer to the Eibishter, the more things are closer to the Eibishter, the more they feel themselves as nothing. The state of Yirei that you didn't experience when they are in the chambers of the king, in the royal chamber, in the throne room. There's nothing new about it. There's no novelty in it. You have to flip the other way, upside down. Similar to the bittul which is in the Elam HaBatzilis, it's not a novelty. Since in Atzilus is Meir the Gila and Sof, we're going to skip to the end of the brackets, which is about
Chain? No, here.
further down. The line starts with Ein Sof. Here.
Okay, fine. The year of.
So the year of Rosh Hashanah is a fully expected year. There's no novelty. There's nothing new in it. And look in our 31, that the Iker Tainug and Shashim, the Iker pleasure and enjoyment of the king Shalomayla, who bebitul ayesh to biaz and bitul ayesh of biyam fnei chidush, because it's a novelty. Kahamashal that Tzipor Medaberes, as the famous marshal in Chassidus, which is brought from the talking bird, that when the king sees it, it brings him great joy. So it's something he never saw before.
That refers to biyah.
So it's part of the brackets, which we're not going to get into now, but it's related concepts, it's related ideas. Biyah is part of the mata. We are part of biyah.
I understand that.
And that's part of the picture of Yira Tata. That's part of the picture where there's only Bittul Hayesh.
Okay.
So in a place like Biyah, that there should be a Bittul to the Eibishter, that's a Chiddush. That's a Chiddush. And the Chiddush brings pleasure to the Eibishter. Just like when a person sees something new, it brings out a novelty. It brings out a certain enjoyment.
I have a story, but I don't want to do it now.
Do it after the Maimon, because we have to finish the Maimon today.
Great story.
So, however, what's the Yira of Bittul and Elul? The Hayira of Bittul be'Elul, however, the Yira and the Bittul of Elul, Shamelech hu besada, when the king is in the field. Sha'az ein nirgash hagabus v'arim muslim. When the king goes out to the field, you can't feel. You don't. When you see the king, he looks like just a regular person.
Yeah, but the people know he's the king.
And they look and they say, "This is a king. He's dressed just like me."
Say?
That's what it's mashma from the descriptions. That even if they appreciate that he's the king, however, they're not filled with awe from him, because he appears to be like everybody else.
It's not the same with the royal robes and the crown.
With the royal robes and the crown and the throne, and never mind with all the ministers, who a person knows that each one of these ministers, this minister is in charge of the entire mighty military. That minister is in charge of the entire system of education. This minister is in charge of the entire economy. And he sees all of these ministers and they bow before the king. These great people are all bowing before the king. So the person is struck with a feeling of awe towards the king.
You know what our problem is? We don't have a concept of king. We don't. We live in America. We don't have any idea of this.
But
it's not the same thing it was 500 years ago.
But is it our problem or is it our advantage? Is it what makes us special? The Rebbe is the Rebbe of our generation.
Yes.
But we don't have kings. And the Rebbe in so many of his memoirs, including this one, shows us how the fact that we're in this situation actually provides us with an opportunity to accomplish greater things than the people who had kings to be able to
Because we're
understand.
farther away.
Because we're in the trenches. We're really in this world. The Eibishter wants to deal with the and there's no
So you're
time
saying
more
when
than
it came in
our
former times, we went in the trenches?
not as much as us. To take it apart and to describe why they had a concept much more than we do, like you just pointed out, of things that are sublime, of things that are higher, of things of elevated concepts, of more refined ideas.
But
No, but that
why are we higher now?
because now we don't even have that,
And therefore
and still
what?
and still we're serving the Eibishter. And this service to the
We have a
Eibishter,
lack of light. Nevertheless, we're still performing.
and that is born of the deepest part of you, of his essential connection to the Eibishter, as opposed to external things that that inspire him and that bring him to the Eibishter.
Okay.
There's Mamorim dedicated just to this concept.
I got it.
This mimer is in the neighborhood of that, where the Rebbe describes Dafka, the mile of the bittul of the Avodah of Yidden. So let's see what the Rebbe says in this mimer.
Okay.
When the king is in the field, we don't feel his greatness. And nevertheless, the Yidden are bottled to the Eibishter. The Yidden accept upon themselves the kingship of the Eibishter. They also blow in shofar, with a shofar, in order to awaken themselves with a fear and a trembling before the king, because they are so eager that this Kabbalah Samalchus, this acceptance of the kingship of the Eibishter, should be complete. In the bittul zeh, this bittul, afshu bittul hayesh, even though it's only the lower level of bittul hayesh, nevertheless, hu yakar ma'od be'enei havaya, it is extremely precious in the eyes of the Eibishter.
You want to do this?
Yes, and like he brings from the pasuk of that David Melech says in Tehillim, the Lamaila Yakar v'Chaviv, that Lamaila, it is very precious and treasured and beloved. Hamisa v'Bittul, the death and bittul, not literal death, but the death of the Nefesh Ba'amis.
Right.
Masha Chasidim Eisim v'Nefesh Ba'amis, that the Chasidim bring about this death in the Nefesh Ba'amis, why liyes a chiddush davar, because it is a chiddush. And he also points back to the Chiddush of the 31 of the Tzipra Medaberes, of the talking word. Okay? So here we have the first Mila. The first Mila of the Bittul of Chodesh Elul is an external Mila, which is to say, in the Bittul of Elul itself, the Bittul of Elul itself is lower in all aspects.
Right.
However, there's an advantage that it's a novelty. Okay, so we didn't point out an advantage in the bittul itself, but we pointed out as an advantage in the fact that there is bittul. The fact that there is bittul, there's a maila lagabe, the bittul of Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
But the bittul itself is still completely lower. We didn't find any maila in the bittul itself.
Right.
Now he's going to move on to the bittul of Rosh Hashanah. I'm sorry, to the maila that we have in the bittul of Elul itself. So let's continue. The line ends with V'yesh. Shleimar.
Yeah.
Sorry, we didn't finish this point yet. Let's finish this point for the first point. And through the pleasure of the king from this, that the Yidden go out to receive him. While he's still in the field, it adds in the shining face and the happy face that the king shows to everybody. This is a reference back to what was discussed earlier in the Maimon that we didn't learn today. Now the Rebbe is going to bring the second Maila in the bittul of Elul as compared to the bittul of Rosh Hashanah. It's not only mitzad the chiddush. In other words, the bittul itself is completely lower. There's no advantage in it. But the fact that there is bittul is a novelty, and therefore there's a maila. No, there's also a maila in the bittul itself. Okay? But for this, first, I feel we have to bring an example, and hopefully it will help us understand what's going on over here. So we're talking over here, as we'll soon see in a moment, we're talking about the difference between bittul hayesh and bittul b'mitzias. Okay, so these are two concepts, two ideas that are brought out everywhere in Chassidus, spoken about everywhere in Chassidus,
Right.
and it's important to try to understand them a little bit. So this is a mashal. I hope it's a good one. Imagine somebody who has a store. He has a shop.
Yes.
And in the shop, it's a grocery store, and he has 2 aisles,
Okay.
and it's just on a regular street. And he has deliveries coming and deliveries going, and he has customers going in, and the register is ringing, and things are happening.
Right.
He's making a profit,
Right.
and he's very proud of his store. And then one day he finds himself in the presence of the executive team of Walmart.
Okay.
And now he starts feeling that maybe his store
This is no big deal.
is no big deal.
Okay.
Right.
Therefore,
Compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars that Walmart turns over, and the
Right.
merchandising that they do, and the
Sure.
sales that they do, and the operations that they
Okay,
do,
okay.
and the profits that they have.
Okay, that's
He says, what are my 2 aisles they could fit in the bathrooms of
So
a
what's the
small
point? What's the
Walmart?
point?
We're getting there. Of a small Walmart somewhere,
whatever. Go right
in the desert of Texas.
Fine.
So he feels he feels bebittel. He's bebittel, right? Now the question is this a bittel hayesh or is this a bittel b'mitzias? In other words,
I don't know.
does he feel that he does not exist, or does he feel that that his existence is nothing so
I
special?
would think it's affiliation.
Which one?
Affiliation.
Bittel hayesh. He still has a store. He's not gonna.
He's still making a living. He's
He's
doing
still
well
making
there.
a living.
Right.
Maybe when he sees himself in the presence of Walmart, so he says to himself,
That's Walmart, not me.
no, I don't think he says that. He's impressed with Walmart. He can no longer be impressed with himself. But his store is still a store. The people
He's
who
not
walk,
lost completely. So to
he's
say.
not his mitzias. He still
Right.
has an
I hear-
existence.
he's still, okay,
He will
right.
never
Okay,
he will
I
never
hear that.
walk into shul and brag about his store anymore. He
Why?
can't,
Why?
because he just saw that his store is very insignificant.
But
There's
to him,
nothing
it's
to-
insignificance.
And the whole him compared to the capabilities of Walmart is a joke. It's a laughing
Walmart.
stock.
It's not mine.
Good.
Yeah,
So that's why you're not batal b'mitzias. But bittul, yes, there is. With what could he brag? When he's standing next to Walmart, picture it like this: if he walks into shul,
Guess what?
if he walks
Guess
in,
what?
hold on.
I got you.
If he walks into shul with the executive team of Walmart
And therefore,
and is sitting there with the executive team of Walmart right over there, is he going to brag about the $100,000 that he pulls into his store?
I don't know.
You think he might?
He might.
He's going to be a laughing stock.
No,
They're turning over
Blah,
hundreds of billions.
I'll tell you why.
Why not?
Because Walmart's not him. He's him.
It-
He's not competing with Walmart.
And the more he's him, the more he feels himself as inadequate. He can't do
I'm
nothing.
not so sure about it. I hear you. I don't
All
totally
right.
agree with that.
I think that somebody in the presence of Walmart, if he has a 2-aisle store somewhere, a mom and pop on the street, and he tries his best,
Dafka.
and he tries his best,
Lav Dafka.
and he tries his best
Yes.
to increase
You
his
want to know
business.
why?
When he's in the presence of
Yeah.
Walmart, I don't think he could feel any pride, I don't think he can feel any pride.
I hear what you're saying.
and that's why I think he's
I
yes,
don't totally agree with you. I'll tell you why.
okay.
Because the more says right, a man is more interested in his job.
That's a different story, right? So fine, he wants his store, and that's why I was saying he's not batal b'mitzias. I'm not saying he's batal b'mitzias, but his yeshes, his pride, can't be there.
I hear what you're saying. I have trouble understanding it. It's not a competition. It's not a competition.
It's not negay over here if it's a competition or not.
What is Logea?
What is negay over here is, does he have something special that's
For him, it's
impressive?
for him, it's special.
Okay, for him it's special.
Right.
Okay, fine.
Fine. Okay. That's all I can say.
If he's a person with ambition, and if he's a person who tries to have accomplishment and tries to be good at what he does, and he compares his
So he'll
accomplishment-
get four aisles now, or get a second store.
and what? Imagine he opened
He's
his
done very well.
Imagine
He's done very well.
Imagine he opened his store at the same time on the same block that Sam Walton opened his first store,
And therefore,
and his store is still sitting there, and this guy
does
took
he
over
make
the world.
business?
And this guy took over the world. What kind of yeshus could such a person have? What kind of yeshus could
Okay,
he have?
I don't understand it. I don't get it. I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
I don't get it.
So we're gonna have to look for a different muscle. This is the
Yes,
muscle
I
that
don't
I
like
have.
the muscle.
I like
Apologize.
it. I think it brings out the point.
I don't think it does.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know. I don't. To me, Mike doesn't get.
Say it. All right.
Doesn't take me.
All right. Say it.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So let's go back to the Maimon now, because
We can't go back to the mimer if we don't first explain the muscle.
if the muscle doesn't tell me anything.
Hold on, we're not done with the muscle.
Go ahead.
Now, imagine. So getting back to the point, although this person feels bebittul,
Go ahead.
although this person feels bebittul, nevertheless, his mitzias is still here. My store is still a store.
Correct.
I still have a store.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what if the person realizes that he doesn't have a store?
He doesn't what?
That he really doesn't have a store.
What does that mean?
That it only looks like he has a store.
What does that mean? That's theoretical.
It's theoretical.
Yes.
What happens when the person recognizes and
He
realizes?
goes bankrupt.
No. Recognizes and realizes that everything that he has, the customers that walk into the store, the merchandise that he has, the aisles that he has, the deals that he has, everything came from the Eivishter.
That I understand.
It all comes from the Eivishter.
That I understand.
And the profits, it all comes from the
That I
Eivishter.
understand.
When a person realizes that,
Yes.
so then he loses his mitzias.
Correct.
The mitzias of the
That
store
is,
isn't there.
that is absolutely correct.
Okay. So that's the difference between bittul hayesh and bittul b'mitzias. The problem is that this idea that he understands that all of his customers come from the Eivishter, and
Correct.
all of his deals that he finds come from the Eivishter,
Correct.
and everything that he has comes from the Eivishter,
Okay.
he can only understand it intellectually. And he admits to it, and he agrees to it. He doesn't doubt it.
Okay.
But viscerally, in his gut,
Viscerally, yes. Go ahead.
viscerally means in his body. Like, what does he feel in it? Physically, what does he feel? He sees these real people, and he sees that he found a good deal that the other person didn't find, and he sees that he managed to attract customers to his store.
Fine.
So, to say that because he admits that everything came from the Eibishter, that therefore he's in the level of bittul v'mitzias, that you can't say.
Right. Right.
In the month of Elul, a person can only reach the level of bittul hayesh. He can't reach the level of bittul v'mitzias, no matter how much he feels that the Eibishter is great, and he thinks about the greatness of the Eibishter and the awesomeness of the Eibishter. Nevertheless, he still remains a mitzias.
I hear what you're saying,
Okay.
but I don't totally get it, because it would seem to me, well, not necessarily. I mean, the Vodas Elo is an Avoda, and the Voda Rosh Hashanah is also an Avoda. So what?
True.
I mean, I'm not getting a difference here. You understand what I'm saying to you?
We said one is the Aveda where there's bittul hayesh, and the other one is the Aveda of bittul b'mitzias, where it's Yirei Lo. In one place, in the Aveda of Elul, he still exists, even though he's with bittul, but his existence is still here. In the Aveda of Elul, his existence
I hear
isn't
what
here.
you're saying, but I don't get it totally.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's
Go
leave it
further.
at that.
Okay, fine.
So, which year is greater? The year of the bittul b'mitzias, or the bittul hayesh? The bittul b'mitzias is greater.
Okay.
In other words, the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah is on a higher level.
Fine.
However, nevertheless,
Where do you
there's
look at it?
still
I lost the place.
the line ends with the habitl.
Okay, fine.
However, nevertheless, there's still a maila in the inyan of bittul of Elul. What's the maila? The habitl, shali de gilui, the bittul that comes to him through the revelation of the Eibishter. That in Rosh Hashanah, and at the time of Tkei Shefer, he feels this revelation milamayla, and that's why he's brought to bittul. So he feels it. Since this bittul is born of his recognition and his feeling the greatness of the revelation milamayla,
Yes.
which is completely worlds apart from him,
Yes.
and therefore it negates his existence. So therefore, this bittul is connected with his recognition. Why is he a bittul? Because he feels and recognizes the greatness of the Eibishter. He gets a sense. The Eibishter reveals his greatness to him. and he senses it, and he feels it, and therefore he's completely bebittel. What if this person was of a lower level, and he couldn't understand it, and he couldn't get it, so he
Correct.
wouldn't experience the bittel.
Right.
So the whole bittel comes why?
San Lamaila.
No, but he has to recognize it. True, it comes with Sat Lamayla. It comes with Sat Lamayla, but he has to recognize it.
Okay.
Take, for example, a very wise person, the smartest person who ever lived. Okay? And you have two people. You have a janitor who knows nothing of words of wisdom, and you have a very smart person. But nowhere near even the smartest person of his time, never mind the smartest person who ever lived. And the smartest person who ever lived is standing and talking and explaining the depths of wisdom that he knows. And he's teaching it.
Yes.
Is the janitor going to be bebittel?
No.
Is the person who's a smart person going to be bebittel?
Guy talking?
No, the smart person, a very smart person, is he going to be
I
bebittel?
don't know.
Yes, he because he can appreciate. He understands, he gets the depths and the wonders of this person's wisdom.
Okay, fine.
The janitor doesn't get it.
I hear you.
So he's not
I
bebittel.
hear you.
Okay, so in other words, in order for you to be bebittel from a great revelation that comes from above, you have to recognize and acknowledge and sense this greatness.
So the recognition.
And if you don't,
How you do the recognition?
yeah, you have to be on the level where you can appreciate
And
it.
how do you get there?
Forget about how you get there. You have to be there. How you get there? I don't know if it's crossed the Aveda right now.
Learning and
I don't know about that. We're talking about other things. But the point is, it's something that you have innately as a yid. But the
But
point,
how do you activate it?
that's not what we're discussing now.
I don't.
We're going to learn everything else besides for the point of the Maimer.
So I'm not
Let's
getting the point. I'm not getting the point, my man.
Because we didn't get there.
Oh, so that's why I didn't get the point. Thank you.
Correct.
Go like that.
So the point is,
How much longer we got to go?
if we stay focused, we'll finish the Mitzvah Shem in 15 minutes. So we got to stay
Go,
focused.
keep on going.
All right. Okay. So, since the Bittul B'Mitzias is connected with his recognition of the greatness of the Eibishter,
Yes.
so therefore it's not a true union of Bittul. V'amitis union of Bittul. Where do we find true Bittul? Who ba'aved the Kabbalah soil isn't the Aved of Kabbalah soil. Shukmei Eved, when he has no choice, he's like a servant, like a slave. Shemitzat Oil Ha'adin.
He has no will of his own.
Not even to be a slave, because mitzad oil ha'adin shemutal olav, mitzad the oil, right, the yoke of the master, which is placed upon him,
He has no choice.
he has no choice, he has to, and that's a true bittul, because this bittul is not born of anything from within him. And in this sense, the bittul of Elul is higher than the bittul of Tishrei, the bittul of Rosh Hashanah.
So you're trying to say
Because the
that
bittul of Elul
the vote of Elul is Evan, the vote of
is a sar, is a minister, 100%. Well, I'm not sure the word that you use, but it's a minister.
Ben, I mean.
It doesn't say Ben over here, but it says that when we reach a higher level where now we can enter into the king's chambers. In other words, we're on the level of the ministers who are allowed into the king's chambers. But it could be it's Ben. I don't know.
No, fine. I hear you.
Okay. So this bittul has in it a mila that the entire bittul is not by the person's choice. He's forced into it.
Right. Okay, right. Well, he said,
and according to this, we can now answer the question that we had earlier in the
so
Ma'aser.
we have to have it in Elul.
Why is the bittul of Elul necessary? The bittul of Rosh Hashanah is on a much higher level.
Yes.
So he says, yes, the bittul of Elul is on a much higher level. But in the Indian of bittul
No,
itself,
the
the Rosh Hashanah is on when we're going to talk dargis, when we're going to talk levels. This is a Yirei law
in Rosh
on Rosh
So
Hashanah.
it's higher.
So it's higher in levels.
Yes.
But if you're going to talk about the core fact that it is bittul, right? If you're going to talk about the fact that it is bittul, flip the page. Flip it. No,
Yeah,
first page.
Ray Summit Zion. It's upside down.
Yeah.
Because that place is upside
But
down.
if you're going to talk about where is there the inyan of bittul more, the inyan of bittul is more in the bittul of Elul, because that's a bittul like a slave who has no choice, unlike a minister who appreciates and decides that he's going to be bottled to the king.
You can't say self-activated, right? Or can you?
That's looking at it from the wrong perspective. That's not the perspective that he's talking about over here. The question over here is in the bittul, is there any quality of the person involved, or is it that the person is bottled? In Rosh Hashanah, the bittul of Rosh Hashanah, there's a quality of the person over here. What's the quality of the person? That he can appreciate the greatness of the king. Just like a minister can appreciate the greatness of a king, just like a smart person can
So wait a
appreciate
minute.
the great wisdom of the smartest
So
person.
that would seem to be. I'm losing it. I don't.
It's a little subtle.
It is very subtle. Michael.
Okay. But without trying to make a seder of the whole picture, let's just focus just on these details. And how to fit it into the bigger picture, we'll have to learn more. Okay? Let's just look at this fact. The bittul of Rosh Hashanah, and we'll go back to the mashal. Okay, we'll go back to the mashal of the smartest person that ever lived. And you have two, and he's teaching his great wisdom. And you have two people listening to it. One of them is a very smart person, and the other one is a janitor. Is the janitor going to be bottled to the person, to the smartest person in the world when he hears the words of wisdom that he's speaking? The answer is no. Yes, he doesn't. To him, a lunatic standing. What's that place in London? You know, where you stand in Hyde Park and screaming, conspiracy theories, is saying the same thing.
Piccadilly Circus,
or wherever it is.
That's what's called.
Okay, it's the same thing to him. He's not bottled to him. The smart person, because he is smart, he can appreciate how tremendous and deep the wisdom of this person is. So he becomes bottled to this person. He says, "Teach me." He says, "Everything that I've known my whole life is nothing compared to your wisdom. Please come and teach me more." So he's bottled. Now let's just focus just on this fact. Why is he bottled? Because he has a certain quality that he is smart. Without that quality of his, he would not be bottled, just like the janitor is bottled.
No Jew is really a janitor. Is that correct?
Shimon, I have to stay focused. Absolutely. And no janitor is truly a janitor.
Right.
If you're a yid,
you're not a janitor.
Then no. If you're a yid, you understand that the value of a human being isn't measured by what he does. So perhaps I shouldn't have expressed myself that way. But what I wanted to say is that he doesn't have any understanding of words of wisdom. Doesn't have?
The janitor.
Yeah. Not chas v'shalom to denigrate a human being.
I get it.
But in any event,
okay,
can we agree
that
a year that's born of appreciating the high level of the other one has to do with my quality of being able to appreciate it? Just like the smart person has a quality that he's smart. So in that sense, something is missing in the bittul, because bittul means I am not. And this whole bittul is why? Because I have a quality to appreciate. So there's something missing in the bittul. Okay. Just hold. Don't try to fit it in the big picture, because it's gonna get confusing, complicated. Just do that. But this point makes sense, right?
It makes sense. Absolutely.
So leave it there. So that's why the bittul of Rosh Hashanah is on a lower level, and not on a lower level, but in the idea of bittul. In its bittul, it's less in this sense than the bittul of Elul. Because the bittul of Elul is not because I decided to be bottled. The bittul of Elul is like the bittul of a slave. Why is the slave bottled? He doesn't have a choice. His master owns him. He's forced. The yoke of his master forces him to be bottled. Right. So this is a bittul that doesn't have to do with my qualities. And therefore, it's more of a bittul. It's my ability to perceive and to understand the greatness of the Eibishter. Okay? So, we're 4 or 5 lines from the bottom of the page. No. We'll start again from Zayin. According to this, we can understand this, that it says in the Maimer, that drawing down the makif through bittul happens dafka through the bittul of Tkir Shefer of Elul, of the Aved of Kabbalah's Oil of Elul, like the simple servant, not through the Tkir Shefer of Rosh Hashanah. He's quoting the pasuk that we didn't learn in this. That was in the part of the Maimer that we skipped. Yeah. Right. That through the trembling and fear of the Eibishter, we draw down the makif, the level of beis, the bittul v'shiflus. It's be'ikr when the trembling is in an eifin of bittul and shiflus. Now this, Shimon, you might have a big. This I'm not going to be able to explain. What's the idea of bittul v'shiflus?
No idea.
The idea of bittul b'chal gets.
Did you feel yourself flow?
Yeah. That doesn't sound right, right?
You can't. It's not American.
It's not American.
It's not American.
So,
I can't think different. Unfortunately.
full disclosure,
Yes.
I'm not going to be able over here to do justice to what the Rebbe is saying
I
over
hear what
here.
you're saying.
But the Rebbe says it, and we accept it, and we
Right.
say that one day we will understand it also, and we'll realize that Chas v'shalom, that the Rebbe is speaking of something that's unhealthy to a person. Chas v'shalom, that the Rebbe is speaking of something that puts a person down. We just need to understand better what the Rebbe means. In other words, to better explain.
I got a lot of stories for you, but I can't. I won't get to.
We'll never get to the end.
Huh?
We'll never get to the end. We'll never get to the end of the mimer.
I'm not running for that. I got 15 minutes. That's it.
All right.
My batteries are off.
All right. So
sorry, guys.
So here.
Apologize.
So hear this. Hear this. Bittul b'chlal, people have a very hard time with.
Especially Americans.
People, when I say people, I'm say people of our generation. If they're not Americans, and the whole world is still influenced by America.
I choose it's Americans.
Yeah, I'm saying it's primarily it's driven.
But I'm on a stream about our whole business. I know. Okay.
We're never going to get to the end of the matter.
Listen, it's my show, not his.
So,
Go ahead.
but it's a tragedy.
So what?
It's a tragedy that people that many people can't appreciate what bittul truly means.
Because they're such a big messiahs.
I don't think it's because of their mitzvahs. I
Then
think
what?
it's because of a misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding of what?
People take bittul to mean
A shmata.
I'm a shmata. Very good. People take bittul to mean that I'm a shmata.
Doesn't mean that.
It doesn't mean that at all.
No.
Bittul means that the Eibishter is everything. That's what bittul means. If the Eibishter is everything, then of course I'm not. But that's not a
That's why
shmata.
you can't assume what a son is. There's no way.
Let's talk about ourselves.
What?
Before we
Speak
try
for
to
yourself.
understand, no, before. My apologies.
Huh?
My apologies. Okay, listen. We got to stick to the mimer, yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
I only went to second grade.
So, bittul does not mean that I'm a shmata chas v'shalom.
Right.
Bittul means that I feel myself to be nothing more than an expression of the Eibishter. I'm nothing more than a reflection of the Eibishter.
Big my friend.
And that's, but we could approach it, and that's something that brings the person to the greatest level of joy. If a person realizes that I'm more than just a sack of bones and meat.
Right.
I'm part of the Eibishter. That's something that brings the person to the greatest joy.
That's a nuclear bomb, or maybe more than that.
So, but we're not going to talk about that because that's not the topic of this
They
mimer.
like that.
But it's a shame. It's really a shame that people have so much trouble understanding this idea. And really, there's many Mamarim that discuss it, and we've learned some of them during this year, these shiurim. But over here, the Rebbe takes it a step further. Over here, the Rebbe says that there's an idea of shiftless also.
Yeah.
There's bittul without shiftless, and there's bittul with
Can you
shiftless.
explain it to
The best I could explain it is to say that bittul just means that I don't exist. Okay? In other words, my existence is not really an existence. Shiftless means where a person feels that his existence is of a very low type, it's of a very low quality. Therefore, now we have to understand what the Rebbe means. What does it mean that a yid should feel with shiftless? And truth matters, it's not just this man. I'm saying the Rebbe didn't make it up in this man. It's all over in Hasidus. This idea of shiftless, where a person feels himself low. We don't mean low like a shmata. We don't mean.
Sorry.
It depends what you mean a chasara.
A lack in the person.
No, it's not that he says, "Oh, I'm no good. I messed up."
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not unhealthy. It's a hara. It's just it's not true. It's driven from excessive ego, actually.
Excessive ego will drive you to say what?
Excessive ego has no bounds, and it drives a person to believe that he can accomplish things that are beyond what he should have really expected that he could. He thinks that when it comes to strength, he should be the strongest person. When it comes to sports, he should be the best athlete. When it comes to business, he should be the best businessman. When it comes to study, he should be the best on the
Wait a minute.
When it comes to art, somebody with such thing will be disappointed because you know what? You have your unique gift that the Eibishter put you in
Everybody
this
has
world to
their
do.
own races.
And
or
to,
their own.
but excessive ego will lead a person to disappointment after disappointment, and also to entitlement. If I think that I'm so great, I deserve to get everything.
Bring it on.
Yeah, and guess what? Your neighbor doesn't think so.
Say again?
Your neighbor doesn't think so. He's not going to give it to you. Maybe your neighbor does.
If I'm really, because I don't give a crap about that guy.
But that doesn't come from a healthy place. That comes from a place of
I
anger,
understand.
of saying he should have given it to me. He didn't. Now,
I understand that.
right?
That's comprehensible.
Anyways, no arguments about that.
What? No,
Anyways.
that's logical.
But in Hasidus, it's explained that there's also this idea of shiftless, which, like I said before, I haven't really learned and paid attention to enough. There's this idea of shiftless, where the person not only feels that his feels that his mitzias is not a mitzias, is bottle. He also feels a shiftless.
Yes. What do you need? What do you need?
What do you
What do you need? What do you want? What do you want?
He also feels shiftless. All right, let's continue. Like it says in the pasuk, "Anu necheruach." He feels like a pauper, and he feels very low of spirit. The more a person lowers himself, I heard once an explanation on the difference between bittul and shiftless. The person explained it as follows: bittul is the pshat that the person understands and perceives the greatness of the Eibishter, and in front of the Eibishter, who is he? He's nothing. Fine. That's bittul. Shiftless is where a person is cognizant of his failings in a healthy way. He doesn't beat himself up. He doesn't say I'm a bad person, but he recognizes and he's aware of his failings and of where he needs to improve and of where he could do better, etc. That's shiftless. In one case, there's no feeling of lowness. In the case of bittul, it's just that you feel the greatness of the Eibishter, that the Eibishter is everything. So you feel that there's nothing of me, there's not me. In the case of shiftless is where a person focuses more on his shortcomings. But again, not chas v'shalom in an unhealthy way. Not in a way that leads him to be sad. Not in a way that leads him to stop being active. And to say, you know what, better I should just indulge myself in my tablets because I'm anyways no good for nothing. Chas v'shalom, not that. There's a person who's able to look in the mirror, to look himself in the mirror and say, you know, I love myself. I'm very proud of myself. I don't regret my past. I think my past is what brought me to where I am. But I have the strength and the confidence to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I have a little bit of jealousy in me. I have a little bit of envy. I have a little bit of ego. I have a little bit of laziness. I have a little bit of hostility. Whatever it is that a person can look, I have a little bit of sadness in me. A person who can look himself in the mirror and say that to himself without that he's beating himself up, without taking away his confidence and his motivation and his happiness for the good things that he did and for the good things that he is. That person is a very lucky person. And that's a person who can do in the Aved of Shiftless and feel a little bit of Shiftless with the guidance of a qualified Mashpia, because the Yitzhar would love to hook himself into one of these thoughts and use it to drag the person down. But shiftless is an Aved in Chassidus without a question. Okay, so we spoke a little bit. I remembered something that I learned about it. Okay. Says it's explained in the Maimer of the Tzemach Tzedek that the more that a person lowers himself, the makif that's drawn down is a higher makif. And therefore, the primary drawing down of the Eris of the makif is through the year and the Chrad of Chedesh Elul. Why? The fear and the trembling of Elul is because you feel what came Ilamayla. And that's not a complete bittul, because it has to do with my qualities of being able to perceive and feel this gilui. The habitul shali dehegesh hagilui ain't about the shiflos. It's not in the way of shiflos, of feeling low. The ikenin in the onion necheruach, the primary bittul of feeling like a pauper and feeling low of spirit. Bittul ba'ifin the shiflos, which this is bittul and of shiflos, who b'hayir v'hacharada the elu. It's through the fear and the trembling of Elul. And that's why we absolutely need the bittul of Elul in order to be mamshach the makif, because in order to be mamshach the makif, you have to have oni and the cheiruach. It has to be bittul that has in it the quality of feeling low, and the bittul that has in it the quality of feeling low comes from the aveda of Elul, where it's like a kabbalas oil dika, not like the minister of Rosh Hashanah, who, with his qualities, feels the greatness of the king. Now listen to what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says over here something that you won't find l'chura in previous generations of Chassidus by the previous Rabbeim. The Rebbe says Vesh Lahisif, and the Rebbe doesn't give a maramak. So now listen to this part of the Rebbe. Until now we said that truly in Madregas, what's greater the year of Rosh Hashanah?
Correct.
We found a Maila in the year of Elul, first of all, that it's a novelty, and also that the bittul itself is more of a bittul, it's a bittul of shiftless. Over here, the Rebbe flips the whole world upside down in these few lines.
Yes.
We could add another Maila in the year of Elul compared to the year of Rosh Hashanah. The Kivin Shayir of bittul de Elul Ba Alidei Avedasam Shal Yisrael. Since what gives birth to the bittul of Elul? Not the Gilu Milamayla, not that the higher worlds came and revealed themselves down here, but it came through the Aveda of the Yid. The Yid is the one who said, I see the king, he's in the field, he doesn't look special to me, but I'm going to go to him, and I'm going to say that I want you to be my king, and I'm going to blow shofar during the month of Elul to help me do this Aveda. It's all the work of a Yid. The Aveda of Ani Ldodi. Shahasherish, the Yisrael who beha'atzmos, Yidden are rooted in the atzmos of the Eibishter, in the essence of the Eibishter, meaning not in any lower revelations that emanate from the Eibishter, but kivyachol from the Eibishter himself. Therefore, the hamshacha that we draw down through our Aveda and the Chedesh of El, which this is the Aveda of the Yidden, we draw down atzmos. Since we're connected to Atzmos, a Yid is the Eibishter's child. And where's this? When is this quality noticed more so in our generation? In higher generations, you saw the quality of a Yid that he learns Torah, that he's smart, that he does mitzvahs, that he's a tzaddik. Now it's that the Yid is connected to the Eibishter. It's the Yid's essential connection to the Eibishter. I am a Yid. I am connected to the Eibishter with my essence to the Eibishter's essence, and that's expressed more in this generation. It's described at length in Basi Lagani and many other places. We draw down to our Aveda of Elul the atzmos of the Eibishter, and therefore it's because of our Aveda and Elul that we bring about the Aveda of Yirei, which, how do you usually understand that? Usually you understand it to mean like this. Yirei is a higher level. If a person wants to reach a higher level, so first he has to go on to the first step, then on to the second step, and the third. Rung by rung, until he can reach the higher level. Right. So what are the lower levels? The lower levels are things that are insufficient, that are small compared to the higher level. Right. It's just that by climbing step after step, you'll reach the higher level. Over here, it says no. Why, by stepping on the first rung, do you get to the highest level? Because this first rung is actually what creates the higher level. This first rung is what? The first rung is the Yid, is the Aveda of the Yid, not the Gilu Milamayla. The Yid is connected to Atzmos. And the Yid's connection of Atzmos is what creates the Yirei Ilah that comes later. So the whole Yirei Ilah is born through our Yirei Tata. It's not just that our Yirei Tata allows us to reach higher to Yirei Ilah. Our Yirei Tata gives birth and creates and brings about the Yirei Ilah. Through the year of Elul, and through that afterwards we're also mamshach the Giluyim of Rosh Hashanah. All right.
Feral.
I know.
I'm kidding. You're still there.
Yes.
Very good. At least I know what's here.
At least we're all.
Do you want to hit the muscle of the
No, we're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Go. Sorry.
Okay. A question to you, Bill. 5 minutes or 15 minutes? It's fine. So then we'll learn Ches. Okay, we could either go straight to Ches or we could learn Ches along the way. Now it's not along the way. Okay, so Ches. So until now we were talking about the bittul and the yira of Elul compared to the bittul and the yira of Tishrei, of Rosh Hashanah. Now this ice is going to follow the same lines of explanation that we had until now, but it's going to talk about Avodas HaTshuva. Okay? So usually what do we say? That the Avodah of Tshuva of Elul is only there so that it can bring us to the higher level of Tshuva that we will do on Rosh Hashanah and Asesime Tshuva and Yom Kippur. Well, over here, they're just going to say again, no, it's the opposite. It's the Avodah of Tshuva of Elul that makes the Avodah of Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah possible. Let's see. Like was brought earlier in the Torah, the Tkiyas of Chodesh Elul is in order to warn the Yidden and to cause them to do Tshuva, that it has a Maila compared to the Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. The Hagam Tshuva the Elul Hial built it even though the Tshuva of Elul is Pashat for Avedis, David doesn't say Avedis, David says Inyan built it unwanted things. So this is a lower level of Tshuva than the level of Rosh Hashanah, which is already a Tshuva of the Neshama getting closer to the Eibishter. Over here we're talking about Pashat Tshuva on things that he did that were not good. That El is the Rashi Tevis of the words of the pasuk Ina liyadeh, that it happened to him that he killed somebody. The Samti Lach, so the Eibishter gives the person Ari Miklat when he kills somebody by mistake. The Ari Miklat who Tikkun al Inyan built it its and that's the Avodah of Elul, because that's why, and that's the Rashi Tevis of Elul, because that's the Avodah of Elul, Pashat for things that are not good. The Ari Miklat who Tikkun al Inyan built it its unwanted things. You skip the brackets. 3 lines later, however, the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, which comes after the tshuva of El, which is after we already repented and cleansed ourselves of the unwanted things that we did earlier in the year. And once we're clean through the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, now we could do the higher level of tshuva ilah, which is about getting closer to the Eibishter. Not about repenting from literal sins, but about bringing our neshama even closer to the Eibishter. Nevertheless, there's an advantage in the tshuva of Elul over the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. Why? The tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is hinted at in the mitzvah of Tkiyas Shefer. Like the Rambam writes, although Tkiyas Shefer and Rosh Hashanah is a decree, milamayla, that we don't have any reason for it, it's beyond reason. Nevertheless, it's hinted to us the idea of why we blow Shefer. We have a hint to what it means. Meaning to say, that those who are asleep should wake up from their slumber and should return in tshuva to the Eibishter. So this idea of tshuva, which comes through blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, is connected to the mitzvah. Yeah, you understand what he's trying to say? That the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is part of a mitzvah, just in a hinted way, but it's part of a mitzvah. Even though the tshuva of shofar, which is during Rosh Hashanah, is higher than the mitzvah of Tkiyas Shefer, as it's known regarding things that are hinted to. And even of Eremes, that the thing that's hinted to is higher than the thing that's pointing to it, is higher than the thing that's hinting to it. And it's so much higher that it can't enclose itself in the thing. And it can only be there in a way of a hint. Nevertheless, this, that the idea is hinted to in the other ideas because there's a connection to them. What they've been saying over here in the last few lines is that even though the idea of tshuva that's included in Tkiyas Shefer is only hinted to, but nevertheless, it's still part of the mitzvah. It's part of the mitzvah in a way of a hint. So it's still part of the mitzvah. So to recap where David is going in this case, David says like this: you have the tshuva of Elul and you have the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. Which is higher? So he says the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is higher. Why? Because the tshuva of Elul is for what? It's not reaching any high madrigas. It's supposed to cleansing a person cleansing himself from not wanted things, from inyanim of avedus v'chulu. So that's a lower level of tshuva. It's the basics. It's the fundamentals. It's cleaning yourself. When do we reach a higher level of tshuva? Tshuva melashon of returning to the Eibishter, where the person brings himself, his neshama, closer to the Eibishter. That's in Rosh Hashanah. So which tshuva is higher? The tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is higher. That was going to say, nevertheless, there's an advantage in the tshuva that we're doing now in the month of Elul compared to the tshuva that we do at the time of Rosh Hashanah. And to explain that, Rebbe starts like this, by saying that the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is a mitzvah. Okay, that's the beginning of the Rebbe's explanation. The tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is a mitzvah. The tshuva of Elul is not a mitzvah. And through that, the Rebbe is going to explain why the tshuva of Elul is higher than the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. So let's see how. So the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is the kivan shefer, which includes tshuva. He mitzvah, it's a mitzvah, lachein gama tshuva and mezes, but therefore also the tshuva which is hinted into kiyas shefer, yesh lo shaychus lahaveda the teina mitzvahs. It has a connection to the aveda of teina and mitzvahs. Now we have to get back to what's the idea of tshuva. The idea of tshuva is where somebody breaks something. He causes something in his neshama to be hurt, to be blemished. Why? Because either he didn't do a mitzvah saseh and he missed it, or he transgressed a mitzvah saseh, and therefore he caused damage. Tshuva says what? Even though you didn't do the mitzvah, or even though the person chas v'shalom was over on the mitzvah saseh, still you could still be okay. You won't be blemished. How's such a thing possible? I thought in order to be whole, a person has to have the mitzvahs. In order to be whole, he has to make sure not to be over on the lav. How could he be whole if he doesn't have the mitzvah? Or if chas v'shalom, the person was over on the lav? So and this is the famous explanation that tshuva comes from a higher place. Teina and mitzvahs comes from the ratzon of the Eibishter. Tshuva comes from Baal HaRatzon. Tshuva comes from the person who gave the mitzvahs. So tshuva is rooted higher. When is there a situation that you cannot overcome the lack of an asay or chasson being over a at the level of the mitzvahs the way they are? But how about the person who gave us the Torah mitzvahs? The Eibishter who gave us the mitzvahs. He's in a position to say that even though a person missed this mitzvah, nevertheless, he won't be blemished. So it comes from a higher place, from a deeper place. So what's true tshuva? True tshuva is something that reaches higher than mitzvahs. And therefore, in the idea of tshuva, the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, which is part of a mitzvah, it can't be the highest level of tshuva. Because the highest form of tshuva must be something that's tafke higher than mitzvahs. And the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is part of a mitzvah. If we need to reach higher than mitzvahs, then we need something that can go deeper than the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. And what's that thing? So we'll see in a moment. The ikar hamayla de tshuva, the main mile of tshuva shemigia b'Baal HaRatzon, which it reaches to the one who gave us the mitzvahs, which this is higher l'mayla meharatzon the mitzvahs. It's the one himself, it's the Eibishter himself, which is higher than the mitzvahs. He had tshuva de Elul. That's dafke the tshuva of Chedesh Elul that we're doing now. Why? Kizesh tshuva megia l'mayla meharatzon the mitzvahs. This that tshuva can reach higher than the ratzon of mitzvahs. Because when a yid does tshuva, it's a yid doing the tshuva, and the yid precedes even the Torah itself, and therefore he can reach a higher place than the Torah, and therefore he can bring down fixing and healing to the place where the Avedis caused damage, because a yid can touch a place that's higher than that in the Baal HaRatzon and bring down healing from there. When is such a tshuva done? When is a tshuva that's not a mitzvah? A tshuva that's done from the yid himself, that's dafka the tshuva of Elul. During the month of Elul, when you don't have the mitzvah of Tkiyas Sheker, it's a minig. It's not a mitzvah. It's a tata. It's a yid tata. It's the aveda of the person in the Chedesh Elul. He comes, the yid, it's the yid doing it, not mitzvah tzivim milamayla. V'lachein hamayla the tshuva he beikar kitshah tshuva b'may adam yisrael atzman, when the tshuva comes from the yid, which this is the tshuva de Elul, the tshuva of Elul, which this is the tshuva of Ani Ldodi. Okay, so over here we have two ways that the Rebbe turned the perspective mamish upside down. First, the Rebbe spoke about Yira and Bittul. When it comes to Yira and Bittul, in the month of Elul, we experience a much lower level of Yira and Bittul. When it comes to the time of Rosh Hashanah, then it's Rosh Hashanah. It's the time of when the Yidden enter into the Eibishter's throne room, so to speak, the chambers of the king. The Eibishter is Megala, Eiris that are higher than this world, and then we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So then the Yid reaches the level of Yira Yilah. Elul is Stam a weekday. It's regular. I go to work. I'm not standing in Shul Hazeh the whole day in davening. It's a regular day. So the Yid that a Yid feels in Elul is lower. He's not trembling the way he's trembling on Rosh Hashanah. And so too the Bittul. The Bittul that a Yid feels in the month of Elul is not a Bittul b'mitzias, where he feels like he's nothing at all. Rather, it's only a Bittul hayesh, which we explained before he came. It's a Bittul hayesh. He still feels that he exists. To go back to the example that we used earlier, if you imagine a person has a small store, a regular store like you would have on Kingston or wherever, and then he sees next to him Walmart. So his store can't feel like anything special next to Walmart. Never mind if he meets the leadership of Walmart, the CEO and all the people in charge of running it. So his pride that he had before in running his store pales in comparison to the achievement and the greatness of Walmart. We're not talking over here in matters of ethics, who's a better person and who I would rather be my friend, and who I have more respect for. Yeah, more respect I have for the person who's running a small store, who is a better person, the person who's running a small store. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just in the pure business accomplishment of it. How could a person compare his little store with 2 aisles compared to Walmart with their thousands of stores, and each one of them, his whole store fits in the entranceway between the 2 automatic doors? That's where his whole store fits. And if the store is a little bigger, then you take also the area where you park the shopping carts, so that's his whole store of one Walmart. So what's his business? It's nothing. So he's bebittul. But the question is, does he feel that his store is nothing? Or does he feel that his store is nothing special? You can't say his store is nothing. His store is still a store. Compared to Walmart, the store is nothing special. But it's still a store. It still exists. It's a muscle for bittul hayesh. He's not going to go and brag. He's not going to march into Walmart's offices and say, look at my store. Look what I had. Can you imagine what I did over here? 2 aisles. 2 aisles. Do you see? Today I had 100 customers. They're going to laugh at him. He knows it. So he doesn't feel he's anything special. It's bittul hayesh. But he still has an existence. His store is still there. Bittul b'mitzias is a different story. Bittul b'mitzias is where a person feels, actually, I don't have a store. I don't have a store. My store is not a store. You know why my store is not a store? Because the Eibishter made it. And all the merchandise and the 2 aisles that I have in my store and the customers and the profits that I make from the store, it's all the Eibishter. It's not me. If a person can really connect to that idea, where that's more true to him than his feeling of I found a good deal and I managed to convince customers to come to my store and the money that I'm holding in my hand is because I kept the store open today, rather than knowing that even though Torah tells him to keep the store open, to do everything he could, we're not doubting that. But still, even though he went and did everything, that's the idea of Bikurim that explains in the Sefer. The farmer sees that he planted and he plowed the field and he planted and he did all the other activities that you need. And still, what does he give the first fruit, the first fruit he gives to the Eibishter. Because even though he physically labored and toiled, he still feels and is convinced that's Be'etzim the Eibishter all along. Notwithstanding all of the pullahs that he did in Teva. So when a person can make this idea real to him, that his store isn't his store doesn't exist, it's all the Eibishter. It's an illusion. All of his business dealings, the business deals that he makes, and the cheap merchandise that he finds, it's an illusion. The advertisements that he does, it's an illusion that it's his activities that are causing him to make money. It's all the Eibishter. So if a person can reach that, then there's bittul b'metzias. There's no metzias of it. There's no store. It's an illusion of a store. It looks like I've made a good deal. There's no store over here. That's bittul b'metzias. And it's obvious that bittul b'metzias is a much higher level of bittul. So he says that the bittul of Rosh Hashanah is like bittul b'metzias compared to the bittul of El, which is like bittul hayesh, which is bittul hayesh. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says 3 milas. 2 milas. One is that it's a novelty, that a yid in this world is bottled to the Eibishter as opposed to the bittul of Rosh Hashanah, which is when the yid stands in the presence of the king. So of course he's bottled to the king. Shenkin, when he's not in the presence of the king, is the chiddush that he's bebittul. The second milah is that this is where you just came, that the milah of the bittul of Elul is that it's a bittul without any of my qualities. I've come to recognize and acknowledge. I haven't come to recognize and acknowledge. The bittul of Elul is where the Eibishter, the fact that the Eibishter exists forces me to be the bittul to him. Just like the fact that a slave has a master forces him to be bottled to the master, so too the fact that the Eibishter is here, I'm completely bottled to the Eibishter. Not because of any of my qualities, but because a yid is bottled to the Eibishter, and that's the end of the story. Not because I understood, not because I can feel and I get it, and I appreciate it, and I'm impressed by it, but just because a yid is bottled to the Eibishter. So that's a milah in the bittul. And then the Rebbe said that if we're going to stop talking about the milas, and we're going to stop talking about the madregas, let's talk about it from the perspective of atzmus. So then we see that the bittul and the yira of Elul is completely higher than the yira and the bittul of Rosh Hashanah. Because the yira and the bittul of Elul comes from whom? From whom does this yira come from? It comes from the yid. The yid is the one who works on himself without any special revelations. During regular weekdays, he works on himself to be bottled to the Eibishter and to fix his ways and to make a cheshbon nefesh, to say, what am I going to do better? And it's all the yid doing this avodah. And since it's the yid doing this avodah, therefore it touches the atzmos. Why? Because the Eibishter brought us from atzmos. We are mushrish in atzmos. And therefore this avodah actually draws down a hamshacha from atzmos. Because we are mushrish in atzmos. In other words, the avodah of Rosh Hashanah, as high as it will be, it's in high madregas. It's in Revelations. It's in the higher worlds, another world higher, and even a higher world. And then we go to the Ilamis of Seviv Kalamin. As high as you want to go. You will go even to Keser. You go as high as you want to go. But it's all in Giluyim. It's all in revelations that came from the Eibishter. It's not from the essence of the Eibishter. The Yid, even though he's doing a very simple Aveda, but he is connected to the essence of the Eibishter because that's where he comes from. And therefore, he draws down the essence of the Eibishter into this world. And that's the Maila of the Aveda of Bittul and Yira of Chedesh Elul, Lagabe the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah. And as a matter of fact, it's actually this Yira and Bittul that brings down the Atzmos that actually causes the Giluyim of Rosh Hashanah. Without this Bittul, you can never have the Giluyim of Rosh Hashanah. Our Aveda, in other words, instead of the picture being where we're trying to reach to something where we are low, and we are trying to reach to something that's higher than us, the way the Rebbe explains it in this Maimer is that we are connected to the essence of the Eibishter. And therefore, by our Aveda, all of the greatness of Rosh Hashanah is actually created. Only by our Aveda, because we are connected to the Eibishter. It's a whole other approach, and it gives a whole other Geschmack in the Aveda of El. And so too, we just finished learning now, and you get to Tshuva. The dimension of Tshuva, not only of Yira and of Tkiyas Shefer, the idea of tshuva that's in the Tkiyah, I'm sorry, of Yira and Bittul, but the idea of tshuva that's in the Tkiyah Shefer of the Chedesh of Elul. Now, what's the idea of tshuva? The idea of tshuva is that when a person missed a mitzvah to say, thereby blemishing himself and possibly blemishing his part in this world. And now it's a missed opportunity, it's gone, it's finished. And the Yid wants to do tshuva, he wants to fix it. How is he going to be able to do that? The way he's going to do that is if he beseeches a higher authority. He says, to the level of mitzvahs, at the level of the ratzon that the Eibishter has for mitzvahs, there's no fixing. The mitzvah wasn't done. The Aveda was transgressed. There's nothing to do. So the Yid goes a level higher, and he goes to the Baal Ratzon. He says to the one who gave these mitzvahs, he says, will you please forgive me? Will you please bring back the light so that it should cleanse the blemish that I created? So he goes to a level higher. And that's the idea of tshuva. And that's why he could fix it, because it comes from a higher place. So David says, let's examine the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah versus the tshuva of Elul. The tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is a mitzvah. If it's a mitzvah, then by definition, it can't bring down this healing, which has to come from higher than mitzvahs. Dafka, the tshuva of Elul, which is not a mitzvah. It's the Aveda of the Yid. And the Aveda of the Yid is being done by a Yid who precedes even the Torah. He reaches even higher than the Torah in his source. If so, which tshuva is greater? The tshuva of Elul or the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah? It's clear that it's the tshuva of Elul that comes from the Aveda of the person. So in short, what's beautiful and what's amazing, what's great about the Aveda of Elul is that it's our Aveda. True, to us it may feel lower. The Aveda of Rosh Hashanah may feel higher. And the Aveda of Elul to us feels lower. But the Rebbe tells us, make no mistake about it. The Aveda of Elul is the Aveda of the Yid, and therefore it is higher than even whatever happens on Rosh Hashanah. And now the Rebbe brings it to a conclusion. He says, Ldodi Vdodi Li Rosh Hashanah Elul. Now the Rebbe comes to answer a question all the way from the beginning of the Maimer. This, that the letters of Vav and Lamed, which stand for Vdodi Li, are part of the word Elul, which is the month of Elul. And L'chure Vdodi Li is the time of Rosh Hashanah. This was his question from earlier in the Maimer. Earlier in the Maimer, he said that the first two letters, Aleph Lamed Ani L'Dodi, correspond to the month of Elul, and the last two letters, Vdodi Li, correspond to the month of Tishrei, or to the time of Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippurim. And he asked earlier, why are those two letters included in the word Elul? If they correspond to the Aseret Simei Tshuva, which is in the month of Tishrei, then why are those letters part of the word of Elul? So he says, with what we explained in this Maimer, we can now explain why they're included in the word Elul. What do we mean when we say that the Aveda of Ani Ldodi brings us to the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah? Until there was explanation, what did we mean? We said that it's a stepping stone. It brings us closer to there. But the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah is its own thing, and it's much higher than the Aveda of Elul. But over here they've explained, no. It's the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah, of Elul, that creates the Aveda of Aseret Simei Tshuva. The Aveda of Aseret Simei Tshuva is included in the Aveda of Elul. By us being Mamshech from Atzmos, we thereby create the revelations of Rosh Hashanah. So the revelations of Rosh Hashanah are included in the Hamshachas HaAtzmos that we achieve through our Aveda in Elul. And that's why the Vav Lamed, the Vdodi Li, which correspond to the Aseret Simei Tshuva, in the month of Tishrei, are part of the word Elul, because they're included in the Hamshachas of Elul. Because the Hamshachas of Elul is Hamshachas HaAtzmos, which brings out the Giluyim of Rosh Hashanah. It's clear, his answer? It's a beautiful answer. Because the Aved of Ani Ldodi reaches the Atzmos, which from Atzmos is from where all the Giluyim, including the Giluyim of Rosh Hashanah, come from. The Elul and the Aved of Ani Ldodi of the Yid during the month of Elul, Klula is also included. Gama Hamshacha de Vdodi Li, also the Hamshacha of Vdodi Li, which is revealed later in the month in the Aseret Simei Tshuva. Rebbe says with this we can also understand the zel mashat kiyas t'chodesh Elul piminim chabadim tashat tarat. That's why during the tkiyas of the month of Elul we blow in piminim chabad. We blow all of the types of kailas. Tkiyah, shvar, and true tkiyah, and tkiyah, shvar, and tkiyah, true tkiyah. We do all of them. In other words, all of the types of tkiyahs that we do on Rosh Hashanah, we also blow in the month of Elul. Why? Kol kailas should take in Rosh Hashanah. All of the kailas of Rosh Hashanah can be tkiyahs to Elul. Yeshnam kol ha'inyanim shvat tkiyahs to Rosh Hashanah. Because in the tkiyahs of Elul, in the tkiyahs sheifa of the month of Elul, we have all of the things that are included in the tkiyas of Rosh Hashanah, and that's why we have all of the kailas in the tkiyas of Elul. So now, also the Aved, the Pasht of tkiyas shefer, the tkiyas shefer itself of Elul also is higher than the tkiyas of Rosh Hashanah in a way. V'zesha be'Elul taking eset kailas v'lei mea kailas. This that in Elul we blow only 10 kailas and not 100 kailas. Ulei shleimar. Since the tkiyas of El are the shaders, are the source from where the inyanim of Rosh Hashanah come later on. So therefore, him l'mayla means chalkus, and the source things are higher than his chalkus, which is a concept, an idea that we won't discuss here. But when things are there in their source, they're all included in their source as one thing. They're not yet divided and separated, each into its own existence. So it comes out that also in the Aved in Tkiyas Shefer itself, the tkiyas of Elul actually include in them and bring out the tkiyas of Rosh Hashanah. The Yatzin says the Rebbe may be what the Eibishter's will. Through our work, and especially through the Aved of Elul, we will bring closer and hasten even more the Geula. The words, these are the words in the beginning of Azyasha. Which that's when all of the nitzaitis went out of Golus during the time of Kriyas Yamsuf. And this idea of the nitzaitis going out of Golus is connected to the Gula Amitzvah Shlema, which will happen when all the nitzaitis are refined. The Kivan Sheba Elam Makabal Amel Cheskulim Sefer Panim Yafis. Umar Panim Sechkes Lakulim, and since in the month of El, which is where we find ourselves now, the king receives everyone with a nice face. In other words, he shows them a kind face. And he shows them also a happy face. It's a certain thing that the Melech, the king, the Eibishter fulfills the bakasha of every single yid. That he should have a ksiva v'chasima teva and a shana teva mesukah, a good and sweet year, the teva anidah v'hanigla in a revealed way. Hein binyanim haruchnim b'limud atayra v'kima mitzvahs, sayin the inyanim haruchnim in the spirit and spiritual matters of learning Torah and fulfilling mitzvahs. The hein binyanim hagashmim and sayin inyanim hagashmim v'bani chayim v'zeinu revichi in children and in health and in parnasa and in an abundant manner. V'alachas kam v'kama negela b'kasha ikris. And certainly how much more so b'negeya to the primary bakasha and the main bakasha, which this is the bakasha for the Gula Mitzvah Shlema, that the Eibishter will fulfill it, which will come through Mashiach. May he come and redeem us and lead us, standing upright to our land, B'karev Mamash, immediately now. A good gebench, ja, ik zie het table, zo'n table,